Hey everybody, how you doing? I don't know why I'm invisible. Oh no, there we go. Okay. I was worried that I was invisible again for some godforsaken reason, but it turns out that today the world is merciful, and I get to be visible. Well, actually, the rest of the world wasn't really merciful all those other times. So those were kind of on me, if we're being real, right? Like, I'm the one who forgot to actually, like, turn on my avatar program. So this is kind of on me, if you wanted to think about it that way. Anyway, how you doing, everybody? I'm Pabs, the Rising VTuber and an artist, and today we're going to be redrawing some stuff. So, my friend Jackie made this very funny tweet that said, Nerissa Ravencroft to me, and it shows this screenshot from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I really like. I love this screenshot because it's such a visceral... It's really gross, but it's very much a relatable kind of impact. You know what I mean? I've been here before. I've been in this situation where I'm like stuffing my face like this. Granted, I don't think I've ever gone full fingers in the mouth like this. I think that's like a new level. A new low or a new high, depending on how you want to perceive it. I think it really depends on your definition of a low. Like, how good must that burger have been, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe I've just never had that good of a burger. It's possible. Anyway, with that in mind, we are just going to be redrawing Nerissa Ravencroft over this. And I'm not 100% sure how to approach this. My first thought is really to just... We're going to keep this easy breezy and light. We're not going to really like add too much detail. I think we're actually going to use maybe the Millie pen for this. So let's... Does that show up pretty well on the monitor? Kinda. We need something more bright, though. Like, maybe like that. No, that doesn't show up too well, either. You know what? Pure white is a good contrast. Let's go for that. Also, I do have her ref sheet here. I think I was debating between using her OL outfit and the original outfit like this. I don't know. I kind of want to use the OL outfit, but I'm kind of worried that with the amount of cleavage that one shows, I feel like I would be far, far too scandalized. I feel like the original outfit works, and it's not too complicated, thankfully. I think we can also just simplify it to some extent, so I'm not going to be too worried about the detail. Does she have gloves? This'll be... Oh no, she does have gloves. Oh, this is going to be so much worse with gloves. Like, it's already really bad, like the just thought of putting your fingers in your mouth like this, just raw dog, but with the glove too in the mix is just... It really is quite horrendous. Okay, what we will do is maybe... Okay, I've got an idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a mask layer to this... Or not a mask layer. I'm going to add a mask to this layer so that we only see this little bit, and that way we can just scroll across the rough sheet as necessary. I think that's the best approach. So let's start with the mouth. This one's going to be a little bit complicated because I do think that the face shapes are really different. Just like, I feel like Peter has this very long face shape. You can see that it's very rectangular. And it communicates this kind of... It's good for, like, Peter, who is supposed to be kind of like the adult in the room compared to Miles in the movie, right? But I think, like, for Nerissa, it is going to have to be a little bit sharper. He also has a crooked nose, just because of the fact that he's been punched in the face so many times, I reckon. Like, yeah, you can see that it's, like, tweaked like this. So I'm gonna have to watch out for that. So let's try this. I think the way we're going to have to do this is maybe position the eyes just a little, like the brow line just a little bit over here instead of all the way up here, because that'll create a more round impression, I think. It always pisses me off looking at the noses for for this because it's always a pixel. Like, y'all see that, right? It's so funny. She has a crow? I don't pay attention to, like, the mascots for a lot of these, so it's... I honestly do forget a lot of the time when they have like a mascot like this. To be fair, I think the talents also forget that they have mascots sometimes. So it's if the mascot is there and is like a consistent element, it's pretty easy to remember. So I'm thinking, does she have rings on the finger? Yeah, on the middle finger it looks like. I've never really taken a close look at Nerissa's rough sheet. So this is kind of a rare opportunity. I don't know. I feel like I should study rough sheets more often. I feel like one of my issues is that I don't like adding too much detail to the characters I design. And while that can be beneficial for my purposes, which is to say just like doodling and sketching, I do also want to expand and challenge my own capabilities every now and again. Okay, so it's kind of got like the thumb kind of tucked in here a little bit. It's also a little bit tough because these gloves are unusual. And actually, is that a little bit of skin or is that just like the metal from the gloves? It's hard to say. I don't think I'm going to add that much detail to these anyway, so let's just add the... Oh yeah, something that we probably should do as well is maybe increase the opacity of this and apply another mask just so that we have the area that Peter covers. Or at least we have the tray full of food. Or, you know, half full of food. He hasn't touched the fries still. I never understood that. I feel like whenever I eat a burger, I need to be constantly taking little bites of fry, or else there's just not enough ballast in the mouthfeel. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that was a crazy sentence to say. I don't know. But I do prefer to take my burgers, like, this is why I don't like especially salty fries as well, is because I will, like, take a bite of burger, take a bite of my fries, and then just eat those together. I think it's because I've been conditioned to, like, have a mouthful of protein with a mouthful of carbohydrate, and, like, the bread just does not register as carbohydrate to me in the heat of the moment. Who knows? Okay, that's pretty good. And then we can just kind of add the bun here. Little by little. Perfect. Okay, then we're just gonna invert the selection. Oh wait, no, we haven't deselected the drink yet. How could I forget the drink? How am I supposed to enjoy my burger without my drink? Oh, fuck. I feel like a bit of a fraud sometimes because I will quote random SpongeBob bits that I've never before seen in English. I don't know if that makes me like a fake fan. I don't know if I should feel bad about being a fake SpongeBob fan. Is it still in Ballad if I did watch the cartoon but just not in the original language, but I still quote the English lines instead of the Spanish ones? To be fair to me, I haven't watched Spanish SpongeBob in like almost 20 years. So, you know, I feel like with that circumstance in mind, I don't feel too bad about using the English quotes for it. It's also kind of bugging me that this drink apparently has the rings on the outside, like, actually, like, jutting out. I've never seen that before on a disposable cup, right? And I'm wondering to myself if maybe, like, those are supposed to be, like, wristbands or, like, hair ties or something. The answer is probably not. Okay, now we can invert selection and apply to this. And now, if we try to draw over this, yeah, it just doesn't work. Perfect. Is there a way that we can temporarily turn off the masking, though? Enable mask. There we go. Mask has been disabled. Okay, so here's what let's do. I'm going to just... Alright, so the outfit has like the little frills on the wrist here. There we go. And it kind of bunches up at the sleeves like this. So I think maintaining a similar texture to what is on the screen here should be fine. I also need to be aware of like how broad I make her shoulders because she has like, okay, so like let's break this down in terms of proportions. So her head is okay, so the total width of her head is like this much, right? So her shoulders are like half of that on each side. Not even half, it's like a quarter of her head on each side. The horns might be throwing off my aim a little bit. I will be real with you. The horns might be fucking up my sense of proportion a little bit here. Actually, come to think of it, is her jacket thing, her kind of sleeves and Shiori's jacket thing kind of look alike, don't they? A little bit. I do think it does give some nice elemental cohesion to the whole affair, though, so I do appreciate that. I feel like it's underrated when not underrated, I think. I do think that there is a valid reason to avoid doing it. There is something to be said for if you are debuting a VTuber group, a generation of a VTuber group, having them share some kind of design element, at least in their first outfits, is kind of it's kind of neat. I like it. Especially if it's just the first outfits, like, you know, once you start getting your casual outfits, or, you know, you have like your anniversaries and you can more... and you have like more individuality to each one. I think it's good that the design ideas kind of split off from there. But I can understand why people don't do it, because I think, like, you know, obviously if you're debuting a generation, it makes sense that you want to have them... It's almost like one of those seasonal tokusatsu shows where like it's like an entire team of goobuses that are in a similar situation, right? Or like come from similar backgrounds or have a uniting element. Like, I think like the Luna Wave tried to do that back in the day, and I think it worked okay for them. Their whole bit was like they all came from like this academy or something, right? So I think it did work in their favor to try and do that. But at the same time, I feel like it's also a better decision to not lean into it too much, because I feel like then what you're kind of robbing yourself of is diversification of design elements, right? Because, you know, not if you debut an entire wave of people who are fairly similar in their design elements, that creates good group cohesion, you know? Like if you have like a group shot, that makes it look really good. But conversely, if it's just some random person coming by and being like, okay, what's good? What's up with the new generation? And they see that most of them are kind of samey to each other, it's going to be harder to create that interest, I feel. Right? If they are allowed to differentiate their designs from the word go, rather than wait until, you know, an anniversary or like whenever they get their own casual outfits, I feel like that's better from a, God forgive me for saying this, from a consumer standpoint. But like I said, it kind of varies from person to person, so there's no real one correct method. It also depends on like the group's own cohesion, because I feel like if you try to force a group that is not really too buddy-buddy with each other already into like being this, you know, supposedly tight-knit group that have known each other for years, or, you know, in lore at least like are fairly well acquainted with each other, I think it can create some friction. Hi Sentai, how you doing? I'm out here ruminating about like about the benefits and disadvantages of like of debuting a VTuber generation with similar themes and design elements. Consumers and their product swap. Yeah, that's why I was so hesitant to use that phrase, is because it just feels wrong in the context of everything that I do and everything that I am. I do think that just because of how fucking Hulk-like Peter here is, I do think I'm gonna have to like maybe lean in the elbows a little bit. I think that might be the solution to avoiding making her shoulders humongous. Maybe that is the coward's way, but you know what? I feel good about my ideas. I'm in Spain without the A. Oh no, buddy, what's wrong? I feel like there's a lot of that going around, though. I feel like March has been very unkind to everyone, so fucking keep your wits about you and hang in there. We are in the midst of a fuck you kind of March. Okay, so after that, it's like this shirt thing. Oh, wait, I'm in Spain without the A. That's spinning. Oh, my bad, my bad, my bad, my bad, my bad. Okay, that's much better, though. That's really good news, actually, then. I'm glad you're not in pain. I'm glad that you're just spinning. Although spinning can lead to pain, I suppose. It depends on how much you're spinning and how quickly. I mean, technically, given the Earth's rotation, we're all spinning a little bit at any given moment. But that's a very pedantic answer, so I don't really have a preference for it. You could just make her more buff and muscular so her shoulders make sense. I could do that. I mean, she probably will end up more buff and muscular than she already is, just by virtue of the fact that her head is going to be her shoulders are going to be like a little bit wider than they are in the ref sheet. So I think maybe this is pushing it from like barely believable levels of buff to just like reasonably buff given her base design. It is really sad that that even like look at, I have reduced these shoulders by like 30%, and it's still like much bigger than the shoulders that she currently has. Anime girl proportions are no game, let me tell you that much. Okay. That's gonna come up like this. You could always draw any character with bigger muscles and make them wear a wedding dress because you have free will. You speak the truth. All right? Like 10 out of 10, complete truth nuke. No notes, straight to publishing, straight to ink. Put that shit on one of those like wood burnt signs that you see at fairs sometimes. I used to make things like that. I bought myself when I was like, I want to say in high school, because I probably wouldn't have been trusted with this kind of implement in middle school. When I was in high school, for I think maybe an art project or something, I did buy a soldering iron. And I didn't actually use it to solder together metals, but I did use it to burn planks of wood that I randomly found. So I did end up with some degree of experience in like wood burn calligraphy. A little bit. I think I tried to draw a horse one time. Okay. I might need to lower the ribbon here. But yeah, no. I do feel like I'm not powerful enough to draw a character in a wedding dress just yet. Not because I can't draw wedding dresses, but because I don't feel that strongly about any character. Horse in a wedding dress. They do this in Uma Musume. That friend who won't shut up about Uma Musume. They do this in Uma Musume. Okay, so... Okay, so her boobs kind of like hanging around here, I want to say. No, higher than that, surely. I mean, there probably has been somebody who... You know what? Let's put my money where my mouth is. Horse wedding dress. No AI results. Hit me with that shit, duck, duck, go. Where's my browser source? Okay, so this is people with wedding dresses on horses. Never really interacted with any Uma Musume media, but I'm happy they put that one girl that says Mambo in the game. Me too, buddy. Okay, so... Wedding dress horse, maybe? Horse-sized wedding dress. No. That's AI generated. I said hide AI images. God damn it. This just says this is just a horse breed's height comparison. I do enjoy the big horses though. I like how for whatever reason the bigger the horse is, the more of like a leg warmer and swag it has. You know what I mean? Like draft horses always have this like these very furry hooves. I really appreciate it. So like, okay, so dress for horse. Step 1. Okay, not bad, but not what I'm looking for. This could be kind of it. Kind of. It's halfway there. This is also closer, but none of these are... Oh my god, this is badass. None of these are quite what I have in mind. All of these are just like coverings or slips of some manner. I also like the girl in the memes where she says Choayo and Supiki, but I'm not sure what gacha game she's from. Me neither. That's the first time I've heard of her. Okay, wait, hang on. This is not nothing. This is at least part of the way what I want. The wings are a very nice touch. I do like that it has a flower crown. It's also really cute that it's holding the little wand staff in its mouth like this. I do appreciate that. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like anybody's thought to make a wedding dress for a horse yet. Although I guess if you would put a horse in a wedding style dress for your wedding, that would imply the horse is getting married. So you know, I can understand why maybe they... What the fuck? No. Pause the music. Just turn the music off. Pause the music. What the fuck? Dressage is so weird. And I like how half the audience looks utterly bored. like, okay, this guy looks like he is terrified for his life. Personally, I think horses should get married. I think they should be married to some extent. I feel like no, hang on. So like given the way that horse breeding works, I feel like if you wanted to get horses married, it would be kind of difficult because like normally you would put one male horse out the stud, right? From my understanding. So I don't know. Maybe horse wedding could be kind of like an exclusivity contract for that. I don't even know where to unpack this. Like, it's so self-evident what this is, but I'm still just so baffled by it existing. The horse kind of does have that shit on, though. I like the hat. All right. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this. Let's just put the music back on and try to avoid thinking about how this never happened. The Spanish Empire has truly fallen. Wasn't there a literal saint dog? Or like, Wasn't there a dog who is an apocryphal saint? Hang on, Saint Dog. Okay. Saint Dog is apparently the name of a rapper, so that's not really what I'm looking for. Canonized dog. Saint Guinevere? Yes, okay. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, the Saint Dog is a French. So Saint Guinevere was a legendary 13th century French greyhound that received local veneration as a folk saint. Guinevere's story is a variation of the well-traveled dog defense master's child against animal assailant motif, indexed in the International Classification System as B524FF. How many children are getting attacked by wild animals in their own home? Okay. In one of the earliest versions of the story, described by the Dominican friar Stephen of Bourbon in 1250, Guinevere the Greyhound belonged to a knight who lived in a castle near Lyon. One day the knight went hunting, leaving his infant son in the care of Guinevere. Because back then they just did not have, like, babysitters, I guess. When he returned, he found the nursery in chaos. Cradle overturned, the child nowhere to be seen, and Guinevere greeted his master with bloody jaws. Believing Guinevere to have devoured his son, the knight slew the dog. He then heard a child crying. He turned over the cradle and found his son lying there, safe and sound, along with the body of a viper bloody from the dog bites. Guinevere had killed the snake and saved the child. Upon realizing the mistake, the family dropped the dog down a well, covered it with stones and planted trees around it, setting up a shrine for Guinevere. Upon learning of the dog's martyrdom, the locals venerated the dog as a saint and visited his shrine of trees when they were in need, especially mothers with sick children. Okay. As Protestant churches emerged in the 16th century, they criticized the cult of Guinevere, seeing it as an example of the abuses and enacted errors of the Catholic Church. Alright. Harsh, but not entirely unfair. Dog cult is kind of crazy if you look at it from an outside perspective. The Catholic hierarchy adopted the continued critique and sought to suppress Guinevere's belief in practices and ostracize practitioners. A fine for the practice was implemented. Oi, you got a license to worship that dog, mate. Well, you know, that's still British. The custom was regarded as harmful and superstitious by the church, which made efforts to eradicate it and enacted a fine for the continued practice. You already mentioned that. Community memory of the practices was still present in the 1970s, with the last known visit by someone to St. Guinevere Wood to effect a cure for a sick child occurring in around the 1940s. Okay, interesting. So, folk saint, never canonized, not very much venerated locally, not at all syncretized, but there was still a dog who was venerated as a saint in folk belief. Interesting, good to know. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. What the hell was I doing? Right, the shoulders. Okay. So I think the shirt would just kind of go like this. Or rather, this is the vest that she has. But yeah, I do feel like there was at least like one more animal that was venerated as a saint in folk belief, at least, but I don't remember off the top of my head which one it was. I feel like it was also a dog, because I feel like this is the first time I've heard of Guinevere. It is also fascinating to see how this might have parallels or may have influenced the story of Rikki Tikki Tavi, which was a really fun book that I read growing up, which I feel like a lot of other people also read. I don't know, how mainstream is Rikki Tikki Tavi? Like, is that a known... Is Rikki Tikki Tavi, like, over? Is it a known quantity, or am I just, like, saying random bullshit? I don't know, I feel like that's the first and only time that I've really ever heard of a mongoose being, like, relevant. Okay, and then that's gonna kind of go in like this. I don't know. I really like the story of Rikki Tikki Tavi because it wasn't like nothing I had read before as a child. Like, it had a very unique cadence to it, which I didn't really, like... I wasn't really familiar with. I'd never read a story with with that kind of cadence before when I was learning English. So I think that's why it stuck out to me so much. Okay. So we gotta add the collar here. Although it can't be that high because you still need to... Or maybe it can be that high. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. Because you would still need these, like, black ruffles that she has under the collar. Yo, Zigzagoon! Not Zigzagoon. Furret! I think. Which... Okay, Zigzagoon is definitely not it, because Zigzagoon is spikier. Is it Furret? I think that's Furret, right? Yes, bro! I love Furret. Which evolved from Sentret, not Zigzagoon. Okay. My bad. I don't know. I feel like it's just because they have similar color schemes that I, like, mix these two up. Do we have, like, the shiny version of it on hand? Yes, we do. I do love that it's pink when it's shiny. I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy that little pink bastard. I don't know. I think I have a fondness for Zigzagoon because I played Pokemon Coliseum when I was at a very impressionable young age. Many such cases, I think. I feel like Pokemon Coliseum really influenced me in ways that I can't really comprehend until I eventually play it again. The day will come, trust you that, but like, I don't know when. I still technically have my GameCube copy of it in my house. I could, like... I would need to get a capture card for my Wii, but I... You know, if I was so inclined to do it, I could do it. I don't know. Ooh, the collar is also... Hang on. I might need to move around the collar a little bit to make it make sense with the rest of the body. Or, yeah, because the... Hang on. Yeah, actually this is fine. Yeah, okay, I would need to put the boobs a little bit to the left, or to the right, actually. Oops. Okay, and then just moving this. This works, though, because then I can move the shoulders a little bit to the right, too. And that would make them... I don't know, I feel like I was hemming and hawing about it before, but I feel like now that I can see the vision of like where the shoulders are going to be, I like the idea of making them just a little bit broader than they necessarily need to be. Okay. Okay. And I think the other thing that we need to do is maybe rethink how maybe like the topology of this shoulder. So maybe a little more like this. I think that'll be good for it. I don't know, did anybody else have like a ferret phase when they were a kid? Like I learned about like ferrets having war dances and whatnot, and I was like, damn, this is the coolest animal in the world. It looks like a cat, but it's like some other shit. Because I didn't know what a mustelid was. To be fair, I still don't fully know what a mustelid is. Ferrets are mustelids, right? Hang on, mustelid. Carnivorous animals including weasels, badgers, otters, polecats, martens, grisons, and wolverines, but not ferrets, perhaps. No, okay, ferrets are part of the Mustelide. Okay, no, I'm good. I'm in the right. I was correct. Mustelid is kind of a nice mouthfeel kind of word. I feel like you don't get to bust it out that often unless you're really into zoology, but I don't know. It's got good punch to it. Very kind of, it has a nice percussive quality to it, the word mustelid. You can't say it too quickly, though, or else it sounds like mustard lid, which is a whole different other can of worms. Okay, let's try adding this to this. Very nice. Okay. This doesn't seem fully right, but okay. I'm just gonna add the ribbon, and I'm going to cover it with the fur, and I hope that nobody notices. What are the odds that somebody's gonna check out this bod? This is just me also lightly pranking Jackie a little bit because I don't think she expects anybody to redraw this. I don't know if she's here. She's probably not here. I feel like Jackie doesn't show up to my streams very often, but that's fine because you know, we all love Jackie. We like Jackie a lot. She can do no wrong. Anyway, I feel like I don't see Jackie in my streams very often, so I feel pretty confident in that this is going to prank her pretty good. Jackie has my trust just simply because of the fact that when I got my Blue Sky account, I asked if she would do like that one bit where like I only have one follower, and she agreed to do it with me. And because of that, she just has my absolute trust. When you perform a cooperative bid like that, it kind of creates a very powerful bond. It is really a trust exercise, I think. I think that really is the best way to describe it. When you do a funny thing with someone else and you include them in the planning for that funny thing, it creates like this kind of conspiracy isn't quite the right word, but it does create a bond. And I think that bond can be a beautiful thing. Okay. Is this... Okay, what is the pattern on her? You know what? I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm just going to try and draw her ribbon, which is made of chains? Yes. Okay, I think it's this one on the far right here that her chain is based on. Okay. Okay, so yeah, no, I can see it now. So this one goes here. This one goes somewhere else. But this one here goes on the tie. Wait, I think this one's just what's on here, right? Oh, it's on the lapel. I'm not too worried about it. Okay. Trying to figure out how this tie actually works. So it looks like beneath the collar, right? Kind of like where a tie is, it's some kind of ascot thing. And then from there, off the chain, it hangs down as that ribbon thing. And I think that's kind of how this works. I could be wrong, I've been wrong before. Creating bonds with people was Don Momotaro's personality in early episodes, but they basically dropped that bit. That did always make me a little bit sad. I do fuck heavy with a protagonist whose whole thing is just making friends to some extent. You know what I mean? Like, not necessarily like relationship building, but definitely like sharing a positive experience with a stranger. Because I think that encourages people, and you know, it definitely feels like a sort of doable good. You know, not necessarily to like spend like all your screen time helping out this one specific person, but rather, you know, having just nice interactions with random strangers. I don't know, it just feels nice. It feels like a good way to make a protagonist endearing, is to just make them very friendly and show that, you know, people accept that friendliness. It isn't. To be fair, Don Momotaro is kind of a generational dickhead, though, so I don't know how much that would really stick for him. I feel like some days I'll have to watch Don Brothers to get my own opinion of it, because I feel like everybody who I've talked to about it either says that it gave them toxoplasmosis of some degree, or it's like the best stuff they've ever seen. That and the Bidward kids like the character. I do think that's also kind of sweet. Like, when it's shown that, like, a character is, like, good at taking care of kids, or, like, they are, you know, popular with children in their neighborhood, like, it also creates, like, this sense of trust in them. Like, they are, you know, they try to, like, do good in the community, and, you know, I don't know how to put it. Like, maybe it's because of like the innocence of children. Like, if they think that somebody is like really cool, right? It's very earnest, and it just makes you like the person a little bit more. It reminds me a lot of, like, in Killer 7, a game which I am never again touching after I've beaten it. Now that I've beaten it, I mean. I feel like one of the bits that I like from Killer 7 is the fact that Masty Smith, the pro wrestler character in the game, is supposedly very popular. What the? Sorry, I just got like a bot alert that some kind of auto mod that I have from Twitch just caught it trying to post that shit like best viewers on stream, boo, whatever. And I lost my train of thought real quick. Oh yeah, in Killer 7 there is a character called Mask the Smith, and one of his things is that apparently he's like popular with children because of the fact that he's a pro wrestler. And it's just very endearing. It's hard to judge Don Brothers because Inoue puts too much of himself into the work, so more of his stuff that you've seen becomes it hard. The more of his stuff you've seen, it becomes hard to separate the art from the artist. It's hard to imagine the experience of Don Brothers from someone who hasn't watched Agito and Kiva. Okay, I scratch what I said about Don Brothers. Everybody who I've met that has watched Agito talks about it like they were in some kind of torture nexus. Actually, Kiva too. Now that I think about it. What's Inoue's deal? Like, as an author, as a scenario writer, as an artist. Like, is he just fucked in the head, or like is he fucked in the head in a very specific way? Does he just hate you as a viewer? Because let me tell you, as somebody who's been catching up with Chainsaw Man weekly for like more than 2 years, almost 5 years actually. Jesus Christ, I've been keeping up with Chainsaw Man for 5 years? No, way more than 5 years. I was still reading Chainsaw Man in university. So Fujimoto's been fucking jerking me along for the past almost 5 years. No, wait, 7, maybe, no, less than 7. Yeah, I think about 5-ish years. God. It pissed me off so bad that they're announcing that Chainsaw Man is ending when the latest chapter is like that. Like, I genuinely think Fujimoto is fucked in the head, and if he does not stick this, we should be allowed to hunt him for sport. If Fujimoto can stick the landing on Chainsaw Man, I think it might be one of the most generational pieces of media ever created. If he doesn't stick the landing, it'll still be one of the most generational pieces of media ever created, but we will reserve the right to beat the crap out of him, I feel. Like, I feel like if the ending of Chainsaw Man doesn't stick the landing, I should be, like, refunded the amount of the number of years that I've spent reading the series. He's a very strange man. He hates most of the stuff people like about tokusatsu, like the action and everything related to the toys, but likes the premise of the hero's calling and having a double life and other tropes that, along with his history, lock him to mostly working on toku. What a miserable existence. Poor bastard. God. I feel like they haven't had people like the. I feel like you don't get people like this outside of like superhero comics most of the time. Somebody who like hates superheroes but loves writing superhero comics, if that makes sense. Or rather, hates writing superhero comics but can't seem to get out of writing for them. Suffering from success to some extent. Okay, and that's going to kind of come along like this. I do think it's nice that she has flowers growing out of her horn things. Well, they're not horn things. They are horns, right? He's also revealed wild things about his writing style in interviews. Like the one time he said that because it's a kids show, he can't have sex scenes, so he puts in scenes of people sitting down and eating together instead. You know what? I can't. That is an absolutely insane thing to say, but I can't even really hate on him for that. I feel like I have to respect it in a weird way. Like, you know what? He had a vision and he wasn't able to execute it, so he's doing it. He's doing it in metaphor. I can't really hate on a man for that. Yes, I can, but I'm not gonna hate on this specific man for it until I watch one of his series, I suppose. In which case, then I reserve the right to hate on him for it. But yeah, could you imagine him just like breaking his clipboard in annoyance because like the people at Toei are like, yeah, no, we can't let you have a fade to black in Super Sentai, man. What the fuck are you thinking? Recontextualizes a lot of the scenes in his various series. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like for me, scenes where people are eating together are intimate in a way, right? I can understand why he chose that as the thing to replace sex scenes, but I cannot forgive him for like outright saying it. I can't, like, for me, eating and sex are two such different things that it makes me genuinely uncomfortable to like conflate them. Okay, I need to lock in or they'll kill me. What is the... Okay, that's like a... Okay, I think I can get that. I think I can understand that. I love hearing about tokusatsu because my friends will tell me about the most random, insane bullshit that I've ever heard in my life, and be like, "But yeah, it's like it is peak though. Like, watch the series otherwise." When he was writing Jetman, he actually asked Toei multiple times to let him do episodes with only interpersonal drama, no monsters, no transformations, no action. Naturally, they always told him absolutely not. What is? Oh my god. Oh my god. They've invented a man with like a unique kind of suffering, with a very unique lot of suffering in his life. I can't help but respect it. Why do they keep bringing him back? Why do they... Or no, I imagine that he keeps coming. Or actually, I don't know. I feel like after you get a guy asking you consistently, can I just do interpersonal drama episodes on series? Like, I feel like you need to be like, okay, he's a decent writer, but we can't let him stay on here, or else I think he might really crash out. Like, he just... Imagine if Tomino has to do a Gundam episode with no mecha or no nothing. Yeah. It's really bizarre to me. This guy is such a unique critter. I feel like they've created a whole new ironic Greek punishment for him. Because now he's forced to write for children's cartoons and not cartoons, children's live action TV shows when all he wants to do is like direct an HBO original series. Like this guy wants to do like something like Breaking Bad so fucking bad, but his own circumstances and his career have kind of led him to never ever be able to have that. I don't know what this says about like anything. I feel like there's a lesson to be learned from this, but I feel like if I wanted to learn something from this, I should just go back to school instead. You know what I mean? I feel like this guy's whole life is a cautionary tale in not fucking around too much with where you go and being mindful of where your career is at, because otherwise you will be That's like a good kind of lesson to take away from this. Make sure you are mindful of like where your artistic career is taking you and like what you are signing up for as a creative, because otherwise you might end up creating a very controversial but popular television show. Actually, I think people would be encouraged by that, so maybe we need to find a different lesson from this. I do think I need to move the ribbon a little bit to the left here. I'm not gonna lie. After I'd finished with this, I was planning on redrawing a scene from a movie that I picked at random, because there's this website that I found that lets you find random screenshots of movies. But I'm not sure we'll be able to get to that. This has been kind of monopolizing my time and thinking capacity. Okay. Oh yeah, I also need to draw her hair accessory. What kind of shape? Okay, so... Okay, I think I get it. So there's a point here, a point here, a point here, and a point here. The point at the bottom connects to this music node question mark thing. I want to say that it reminds me of a music note, but that might just be because I know that she's supposed to be like a songstress or whatever. The thing as well is that you use the analogy of like, imagine Tomino asked to do a Gundam episode with no mecha or something. I feel like I trust Tomino. I've never seen a single piece of Gundam media in my lifetime, by the way, but I would still trust Tomino to do that. This guy, I would not trust to do that. I don't know what it is about him, but he doesn't seem like I could trust him to do a pure drama episode. Maybe it's just because my fragile, non-mech pilled brain can't fathom a show without like at least a little bit of the runtime just being purely devoted to like human politicking and talking about the giant robot and, you know, not really being in the giant robot. But like, I imagine that you would at least have to see somebody in the robot at least once an episode for a little while. You know, you paid good money for that transformation sequence, Sakuga. You might as well get the most you can out of it. I really gotta tap into Gundam at some point. I feel like I would really enjoy it, because I do seem to have some bizarre proclivity for media where a guy is having the worst day of his life, and I feel like Gundam is that forever for Amuro Ray. So I feel like I would be a good fit for the series. I mean, Jetman is well remembered series for its character, so he kind of had a point. I guess the real question is can he actually pull it off? And it seems like the answer is yes. So you know what? Maybe we should give him a shot at an HBO original series. I don't know. Is HBO over in Japan? Is it like? Do you think we could get him on some kind of HBO Japan dealie? If that is available. Does she have a mole? I feel like she has a mole somewhere. Yes, underneath her left eye. How big are her eyebrows? They're not very big, are they? God, I really can't imagine doing this with gloves on. It's just a really bad sensory, imaginatory experience. Right, the mole. Okay, let's take a peep at this without the... Maybe just flip the canvas a little bit. Okay, I'm seeing some problem areas already. The core Gundam shows are worth watching, but TBH, other than Turn A, all of Tomino's best directorial works are non-Gundam, stuff like Overman King Gainer, Brain Powered, or Ideon. I've heard some fucked up things about Ideon. Like I remember seeing... I remember somebody like mentioned it offhandedly in an interview once, and like everybody in the... It's like the mood in the room and like changed completely. I've also heard about brain powered before, but I think that was in the context of a joke about like I only move for head, that's why they call me brain powered. Which was a very good joke, to be fair. But yeah, I should get into more like classical otaku shit. I feel like I feel like my curriculum as a nerd is kind of lacking, and while I should probably fill in that gap of knowledge with like information about Roman history or something, I could instead choose to do it with like a massively influential show, which I think will have its own benefits. Did I accidentally make her head too big? I might have made her cheek too big. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I understand what I have to do now. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like getting into Gundam. I don't know how to put it. Like, you know how there's that one idea that you're not like bad at life. You're just missing in a very specific vitamin deficit. I feel like the same thing is for me, but I need to like get obsessed over some kind of obscure mech show from the 80s. I don't know. There's nothing that has driven me to the point of madness with passion yet, so I feel like I still need to find that. Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like I do love some things, but I feel like I don't love things the way that other people love them. You know, I don't have that kind of madness that some people seem to gain from these things. And that's fine, probably, but I also kind of want to experience it at least once. That obsession that drives you to create, I think it must be a beautiful, powerful feeling that could destroy you. But, you know, a beautiful, powerful feeling all the same. Well, come to think of it, a lot of beautiful things can destroy you, so it might as well be something that makes you more productive at art. Although I do have to lock in this year, so maybe I should wait until, like, next year or another time to really dig into it. I don't know. Chances are it probably won't affect me as much as I'm hoping it will, so I think I'll be fine whether I do it or not. Alright, how's that looking in pure black? I think that's fine. Okay, so here's what let's do. I'm going to... maybe with like this kind of darkish color. Or maybe like this one here, actually. This one seems good. Okay, let's use the fill tool. And play around a little bit in this wonderful space that we've created. I'm probably gonna lighten up a lot of the colors in her color scheme just because I think it's gonna be easier to tell apart in that case. I think it's fine to watch stuff like that in like an episode every day or so, or maybe 3 episodes at a time. That way it's not too much big of an undertaking or a time sink. That's true as well. I feel like the more I feel like I've reached a point in my life where I recognize that I do probably need to resubscribe to some streaming service or another. Like, I feel like I've depleted every single YouTube thing that I can think of, and even though I don't eat with, you know, I don't really watch stuff offline nowadays, I feel like I might need some kind of access, if that makes sense, to a streaming service of some description. Like, I feel like I can no longer I can no longer find like a video to eat with my meals, and I feel like even though I shouldn't be doing that in the first place, I do need to think about it. You could just become a One Piece fan if you know what I mean. I guess that could also work, but I'm a little bit worried about that now. Like, don't get me wrong, I am I enjoy One Piece as much as the next guy, but the great age of piracy isn't what it used to be. You know what I mean? Marines are kind of the Marines are kind of getting serious about this shit, and it's making me a little bit nervous. Speaking of the Great Pirate generation or the Great Pirate era, I do need to eventually buy the upgrade to version 5.0 for Clip Studio. I heard that apparently they're going to charge you out in the ass for it if you haven't been keeping up with the EX upgrades, but you know what? This is a program that I use almost every day of my life. I'm willing to bear that weight. Possibly. I'll have to actually look at the price tag first. Okay, and then just kind of like this. Perfect. Actually, yeah, this works well for this kind of fuzzy bit. It's just making it the same color as the sleeves. I can probably do some light rendering to make it look more appropriate. Funnily enough, we're no longer talking in like code or anything. I do feel like maybe getting a jump subscription and like just reading One Piece cover to cover over the span of 3 months might fix me. It might be worth looking into. I don't think I'll actually do it. I don't know. I feel like I'm too wishy-washy to pull the bullet on it, but I could do it. I feel like that's enough. That's enough for me for the time being. I don't know. I feel like I need to save myself before I try to make a piece of media save me. Once I have that wherewithal, I feel like then I can go outside and play with my toys as much as I want. But before that, I need to like work on myself by myself. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not emotionally mature enough for One Piece, which is a crazy ass sentence. I'm not in the right emotional state to read One Piece. I do think I have the emotional maturity. I think I misspoke, but I feel like I would not survive a read-through of One Piece right now. In my opinion, the reason I wouldn't fuck with streaming services has nothing to do with prices. The bigger issue is the selection and convenience. If you could buy it by other means, you can have basically any show downloaded on your device without having to worry about what's been made available in your language officially, or which service currently has it. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the downside. I don't know. I feel like I've lost my edge. Like I said, the great age of piracy ain't what it used to be, but I still feel like I should at least make a token effort to return to who I once was, if that makes sense. To go back to the old me. I have been enjoying getting stuff on physical media recently, though. Like, actually, come to think of it, I might have to figure out a way to, like, get a Blu-ray player at some point. I have a copy of Jurassic Park in 4K that's just burning a hole in my pocket. It is really annoying that we had a whole thing where, like, I do feel really annoyed that we are in the phase of streaming where it's like Poob has it for you. You know what, maybe the one thing that bums me out about Tubi is that they do have like 50 million different classic shows, but at the same time you can't download anything to watch offline. So it's really kind of a bother to try and get anything done with that, if that makes sense. Like, my main thing is that now I just want to be able to watch stuff offline if I want to, because then, you know, I could just, like, quietly watch an episode of Columbo at my break room at work while I'm eating my empanada, and you know what? That could be the life. That might be love. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to finish coloring in the rest of this shirt and the ribbon. But yeah, it's really horrible that now it's like we are in that phase of video streaming where it's like Poob has it for you. It's on Hubi. It's currently #1 ranked on Flabe or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember the whole copy pasta off the top of my head. I just remember the phrase Poob has it for you, and I kind of go from there. I feel like I'm missing something from this. Like, I feel like... Hang on. I'm going to make her bluer. I need to make her bluer. Wait, actually, I think I know what's bothering me a little bit. So let me flip the canvas again. Yeah, I think I need to make the left eye a little bit bigger. Okay. I do think I need to make this part of the body much darker, just so that it's clear that it's like under the shadow, if that makes sense. Is this an actual? Yeah, that's an actual hole. Okay. But it really does feel like it restricts our freedom as human beings, not being able to watch what we want when we want it. You know, even if you have money, you can't necessarily get everything you want. I feel like that's very frustrating. That's like maybe the singularly most frustrating aspect of the world at large these days, is that even if you have money, good things are just not available anymore. Like whatever rich loser has like 50 billion Instagram followers and their own McMansion that where they make home movies from effectively is probably wearing the same discard and draw H&M fast fashion bullshit that you are. Unless like you go out of your way to get good stuff made for you, like made to your specifications or manufactured for you specifically, it is just extremely difficult to find anything of quality nowadays. Or to find anything that is like, that fulfills your needs appropriately. As, again, I don't want to use the word consumer, but I think I will escalate it this time to human being. Like, it just does not satisfy your needs as a human being. Okay, and then over here. Very nice. Okay, and then we can probably use a slightly less intense shadow for the outer vest here. Humans have been forced to adapt to the technical nature of our economy and not the other way around. So true. I think you've put it in maybe the most succinct way possible. Like, more and increasingly it feels like we are forced to adapt to things that are outside of our control, which are very much, but the thing is that those things outside of our control are in somebody else's control, and we're just not allowed to say no anymore. And that really cheeses me off. Okay, wait, hang on. So let me, okay, interesting. Okay, we can try this then. The thing is that somebody, or at least multiple people, are making these decisions that are actively making our lives worse, and it feels more and more difficult to not feel resentful about it. And I feel like it's really for no one's benefit, because the people who are making these decisions and making these mistakes are definitely not learning from them. Or at least they're not taking away the correct lessons. It's all just very frustrating to experience as just somebody with a conscience, I guess. I think if you're capable of conscious thought, I think you can pretty well agree that this whole situation is suboptimal in a lot of ways. Okay, and then we'll use the same... Okay, no, this is also gold, so why does it not look that way in the render? But yeah, more and more, I feel like the question we need to ask is, for whose benefit is this? Because it really doesn't feel like it's for our benefit. Okay, so here's what let's do. Let's use brightness and contrast. Increase contrast a little bit, but also increase brightness. Maybe for everything except the skin. Or actually, wait, I've got a better idea. Select color gamut. No, that's really not working. Let's try this one more time. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. The shadows here don't make sense. What am I doing? I feel like I'm definitely... I think that's probably because I'm at that midpoint where, like, you're not sure if you're cooking or not, and you just need to keep going, but my god, is it so freaking difficult to get out of that mindset. Let's try this. Because my current issue is that this is not really, like... The shadows aren't making sense. Okay, wait, no, I've got it. Hang on. I just need to go bigger. Need to deepen it in some places and recede it in others. This is how we do it. Okay, what I also need to pay attention to is the back of her hair, which has that nice blue highlight in it. Okay, that's kind of gonna go like this. Okay. I think for the... Okay, so maybe what we do here is we do switch over to slightly darker, less saturated color for the part that's under the table. Or that would go under the table. Tray, whatever. And then kind of just have it like this. And then just brighten it up like this. slightly less intensively. No, wait, that's not right. Yeah, that looks a little better. Let's add a couple of streaks here and there to really break it up. And maybe even a little bit of a gradient from the front to the back like this. Yeah, that's good. And we should probably make the gaps in the horns a similar color. Right? That's what I think. Like this. Yes, sir. All right. And then just a little bit of a gap in this one, I think. Phew. Yeah, no, but I think I remember being the peak of my frustrations with the limitations in just what is available to us in terms of like knowledge and things that we could experience is when I found out that there's no official translation for Hajime no Ippo. I'm like, really? One of like the biggest manga series of all time, one of the longest running manga series of all time doesn't have an official English translation, like none at all? Like no attempt has been made. Like, I can get why, right? To some extent, I can understand why, because, like, some of the stuff that happens in the early chapters is extremely questionable, and I don't think we should include... I don't think that shit's gonna fly anymore. But, like, nobody even tried? Like, really? It's just so baffling. But no, that is precisely the case. The only available translations are made by fans, and you know, one of the biggest archives of it actually got taken down last year. But it's crazy to think about. Like, there's so much like monumental stuff that is completely unknown to us that is just never going to be officially available in any capacity. And even in unofficial capacities, you might still have a hard time finding anything for it. I did see a funny anecdote the other day of somebody saying that they wanted to try... They wanted to, like, get into anime, but in a non... But, like, the way that they did it is that they tried to watch shows on like my anime list that were like at a 6 out of 10, right? And they found out that a lot of those were like very influential in Japan, but like they just did not go over well in the West. Which makes sense because from what I understand of my anime list, it's like popularity based rankings. So if something is like fairly obscure but it was influential, like, you know, if something was like the Eraserhead of anime, right? It would be influential, but it wouldn't be something that would necessarily find its footing outside. Kinnikuman isn't available in English officially. Okay, to be fair to Kinnikuman, that's also got a lot of questionable stuff in the early part. If we want to be absolutely... In fact, the questionable stuff in the early parts of Kinnikuman... Actually, no, the questionable parts in the early part of Kinnikuman are way worse than the questionable parts in the early parts of Hajime no Ippo. Like, listen, I don't... listen. art is a broad spectrum, right? But like Kinnikuman Man does very strongly feature as a recurring character that does not improve in any meaningful capacity until like maybe his third appearance, a very unflattering depiction, a racial caricature, to be more precise, of a Chinese person. And I'm gonna be so for real, you cannot be doing that. We cannot be doing that. Also, Kinnikuman is buddies with a dude who's dressed like a Nazi, which is, again, really, really bad. I cannot emphasize enough. Like, he doesn't do Nazi things in Kinnikuman, but he is dressed like a Nazi, and that is very much supposed to be like a dude who is a Nazi. Saint Seiya didn't take off here. Yeah, that... To be... you know, the good news is that Saint Seiya did take off in Latin America. I want a My Anime List site that I can see the ratings, but only Spanish-speaking users are allowed to use. Dude, what if you could use, like, a VPN to go to Mexican My Anime List? That would have some I feel like Mexican My Anime List would be, like, some real patrician shit. Yeah, Ramen Man and Brocken Jr. are beloved iconic characters, and they are they gotta go. Listen, I love Ramen Man. Ramen Man is my bro. We cannot be having Ramen Man out here, right? Like everybody loves Ramen Man, but we cannot in the year of our Lord 2026 be having a character like Ramen Man running around. I am so sorry, Kinnikuman, but Yude Tamago, listen, you do some great work, but we cannot do this shit. I will not bear it. I will not tolerate it. And again, like, listen, I was gonna say, like, the thing that Hajime no Ippo did in its early chapters that will make sure that it's never ever translated, is that a character did straight up do blackface. Like, that is just a fact of life that a character in Hajime no Ippo has done blackface. And we really either we gotta get that shit out of there, or we gotta, like, find some workaround, because we cannot be doing this shit. I refuse. Categorically, I refuse. Like, I don't want to have to, like, open a volume of Hajime no Ippo and have to, like, see the Warner Brothers. These cartoons were, like, a product of their time, forewarning. It is funny how they started making new official chapters of Kinnikuman recently, because the other classic characters have to stand shoulder to shoulder with the new designs. Oh, Jesus. It is really funny because, like, Yude Tamago has, like, evolved so far as an artist. And, like, but, like, a lot of the designs they did were, like, when they were still, like, in that nascent stage. There's a similar contrast with Satch Bell 2, but it's not as much. I kind of want to read Satch Bell 2. I kind of want to see what that's gonna be about. I should probably finish reading Satch Bell 1, though. I remember I read part of the manga and got pretty far into the anime for it, but I don't remember actually finishing it. Select color gamut, this one here. Why is it acting like that? That's weird. They just kind of got locked in with a strange cast. Not just those two, but most of the iconic Kinnikuman characters from the more comedy parts of the series originally. Ah, I see. What, do you mean like the guy who's a urinal? That would be kind of hard to take seriously, I'm not gonna lie. Or the guy who's a giant walking blender. Or the guy who's a giant walking cassette tape. It is really funny that the one design that has kind of stood the test of time is Terry Man, who is very much just like Terry Funk, from what I can tell. Like, that's just straight up supposed to be Terry Funk, but as a cartoon character. I don't know why I find that so funny. Like, this guy that's based on a wrestler who hasn't been active in like decades is like one of the mainstays just because it's just some random white guy. Yeah. I kind of crapped out my read through of Kiniko Man kind of during the Battle for the Throne arc, so I started seeing a lot of the more serious ones. Like, I will say that I love Sunshine's design, but it is really funny that's just a brick man. That's just a guy. That's just a rectangular motherfucker who is there for some reason. I do find it fascinating that a lot of these longer running series that eventually like become cultural icons did originally start as comedy series. I don't know what it is with that effect. Yuta Tamago always willing to use fan submitted designs too, regardless of what they were. That I forgot about that part. Yeah, that is true. The thing is that Kiniko Man is very much for the kids, is the thing. Like I feel like you can feel a lot of that. Maybe it is also just because of the pro wrestling gimmick that it has, because that also carries through with it. But it is fascinating that it is just like so popular with children. So I feel like that's a surprisingly heartwarming facet of it, is just the fact that Yuta Tamago is fairly aware that they write for young children, and knowing that you can almost kind of like feel that the story structure is suited towards that kind of age category of reader, right? Because 90% of the time, even though the plot can basically be boiled down to Kiniko Man and company need to beat the crap out of this one specific guy, it's like it's given like the correct amount of melodrama to make it engaging for children, and also produce its own fairly moving emotional sequences, I feel. Okay, and then over here. There we go. I don't know. I like I said, there's just like this very heartwarming element to whenever you learn that like the design for something was user submitted. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It becomes more precious to me in a way. Also, super influential Akira Toriyama, Ichiro Oda, and Hiromu Arakawa are all big fans, for example. Yeah, that's a thing. Okay, can you remember what Hiromu Arakawa did? Because I remember the name rings a bell, but I forgot what they were involved with. Like it's on the tip of my tongue. Full Metal Fuck. Right. I was gonna be like, is that the Full Metal Alchemist lady? But I don't think that's what her name is. But no, I did just straight up forget her name. That's my bad. I wonder if Silver Spoon has finished yet. Last I remember from Silver Spoon, they were like doing like this whole business proposal plot line with the main character and one of his goofy high school sidekick buddies. So I'm kind of interested to see how that went. I like when they use fan submissions. I'm glad they brought that back for the new Mega Man game, even though it's not practical to have even Robot Master designed like that these days. To have every Robot Master designed like that these days, I do appreciate it. I do feel like, I don't know. I feel like it makes people want to engage more, if that makes sense. Like, there's a certain kind of sheer honesty and trust that you kind of need to put into an audience in order to do that. And it's kind of nice to see. I don't know. I've been heavily influenced by advice that I heard a little while back that if it's going to be part of your branding, you want to have like more control of it over it, if that makes sense. So, like, for example, like if you're a VTuber, you shouldn't use fan submitted. You should try to avoid at least using fan submitted mascots unless you feel like, you know, that the mascot in question just like perfectly captures your brand or whatever. So I feel like that's the thing, that when you think that way, it is just in terms of branding, and it's good to think that way because in that regard, it's also watching out for the people who like what you do and like what you create. But it's also stifling in a way, having to think like that all the time. Sometimes you do have to just like cut loose and let it go. Having the Robot Masters be consistently fan-submitted designs is kind of hilarious in retrospect, though, because now I'm remembering that one Brian David Gilbert video of him like trying to figure out like the horror of the existence of like the different Robot Masters in Mega Man, and concluding that a bunch of them lead like fairly pointless lives because their jobs can just be done by normal analog machines rather than being automated. Okay, I need to lighten the shadows on this, I feel. Let's try that again. Let's try something else. So maybe like 5 on the tolerance. You know what? Good enough. I'll just deselect everything else that's unrelated. Which appears to be basically everything on screen. They go into that a lot in one manga where Rock grows up and becomes a dentist and he runs into a lot of robot masters trying to find new jobs. That sounds like it could be peak, quite honestly. It is really funny to think that the robot masters, now that they've stopped going on like world-ending rampages, are effectively unemployed. I don't know. There's something so funny to me about like the idea of like, you know, what is a supervillain after like they have their plans sorted? Aren't they basically unemployed? I don't know. Something about that just really tickles me as a concept. Okay, that should be good for that. Okay, I also need to remember to draw the actual lines that she has on her blouse. Okay. Let's try this. It varies because some of them are made by Light or Cossack for specific things they may or may not still be needed for, while others are actually made by Wily to be evil instead of just reprogramming them. Oh no. God, that would suck. Like, what if you were, like, born to be, like, a Reaper drone, right? And then, like, suddenly the guy that made you is, like, in prison or some shit, and now you just have to figure out how to, like, live like a normal human in your Reaper drone body. The fascinating moral questions that are asked to us by the video game Mega Man. Also, I did not know that there was a character in the Mega Man series who was named Cossack. What the fuck? It's never been actually confirmed fully which are which. Some of them say or imply, but Wily puts Wily numbers on every single one. True. Okay. That's gonna go like this. God, that is also kind of a nightmare because imagine you get briefly brain controlled, right, by some douchebag, and he like brands you with a serial number that says, "Yeah, I served in this douchebag's army while I was brainwashed," right? And you go to maybe you have even like a support group for people who also got brainwashed by a said douchebag. And one time you show up and you're like, oh man, it is crazy that we got brainwashed that one time, didn't we, fellas? And it turns out you're the only guy who got brainwashed. Everybody else was just in it for the love of the game. Everybody else in the meeting was fully on board with the brainwashing guy. They just come here for the company. Okay, so there's still a gap somewhere here. I think this is it. Is there any other gaps that I should be aware of? No, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, and then we can just deselect the glove here and here. It is such a bother working with designs that are all black. Like this. It's very hard to get the color balancing right. Yeah, Dr. Mikhail Cossack. He created Beat, Mega Man's bird, and people speculate that his daughter created Axel from the X series to round out the three of them to reach Dr. Light, since Light made X and Wily made 0. Huh. Neat. I do appreciate that Mega Man, for as much as I love it, will just name people any old bullshit if you're not a robot. If you're a robot, your name will be something or other, and maybe man or woman, depending on what your specified gender is, right? Oh, you move bricks around, huh? Is that your job? You're Brickman now. Fucking welcome to the rest of your life. But if you're a human being, they'll name you any old bullshit. I do appreciate that. I feel like it adds a sort of bizarreness to the setting that is kind of necessary to suspend disbelief. Like, even Mega Man's human name, like Rock, right? Like, that's some bullshit that somebody named him, right? That's... Like, actually, no, some people are just straight up called Rock in real life, right? Like, there has to be at least one person running around whose name is Rock. Like, even not counting, like, potential weeaboo cases, right? Like, discounting for weeaboo statistical manipulation, let's say, controlling for that. There has to be at least one person out there who's named Rock. Zero's lore is so funny. He was built to be the ultimate evil destroyer robot, and Wily wasn't satisfied, so he created the Maverick virus to make Zero double super evil, which caused a numbers error and loop back around to him being the goodest boy ever. I guess the lesson from this is that sometimes you need to just, like, learn to take the W sometimes, you know? Over-seasoning doesn't just apply to conventional cooking. You can also over-season a robot. God. It is really funny that you can Stack Overflow your way into like being a decent human being, though, like in the Mega Man universe. Like imagine if somebody was such an asshole. Like, all right, imagine like a strawman Twitter guy, right? That was just like retweeting some random evil bullshit one day, and then he suddenly grows a conscience and gets really into utilitarianism. Like, that's objectively one of the funniest people that could ever exist, and that's a real person in a Mega Man game. Like, what if you rage baited someone so hard one day that you started believing in, like, the inherent goodness of the human spirit? I feel like that's definitely happened to at least one person on Earth. I don't know who it would be, but I feel like that's happened. We need more cases like this, I feel. Right? Like, imagine how much better the world would be if you could if instead of, like, shrinking your heart to the size of a peanut, being an online rage baiter would eventually, like, flip your pedometer over to eventually make you into, like, a virtuous saint. I think it'd be good for you. I feel like it's good to have that balance where, like, if you do enough hateful shit, you eventually need to balance it out with something good. Of course, this does unfortunately mean if you try to be like a decent person too hard, you do eventually become like some kind of tyrannical bastard, which does have a few different cases here and there. You know, that's not an unknown kind of turn of events. I guess you just gotta watch out for yourself, huh? Okay, and then just shading that. Very good. Lovely. Okay. And then we're gonna... Okay, adding this. We should probably add some blush to her face a little bit. Yeah, this feels right. Now, what I am going to try and do real quick is Okay, first we need to apply the mask layer. Which, actually no, well, first we'll have to apply the mask layer to a folder and then put that folder here and then, yes, 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 okay. Okay, so here's what we gotta do. First, we gotta use the soft eraser on a couple of these areas and then, or not the soft eraser, we're gonna have to use the airbrush, I think. On a couple of these areas. Yeah, like this one here, for example, it'd be better if the reflection was like this darker color. Okay, and the other thing we need to do is we do also need to effectively Photoshop Peter out of here, right? So here's my proposal for that. In terms of proposal, I have no proposal. It's actually canon lore that Dr. Light used rock, roll, blues, rush, tango, etc. because he's just a music head, presumably. Cossack and Wiley are just copying him when they do it out of respect and rivalry, respectively. That is also a really funny idea. Imagine, like... like, on the... you're over here, like, okay, my biggest op in the universe has a specific naming scheme. I am going to copy that naming scheme because I need to show him how much better I am at naming robots than he is. Meanwhile, this other dude's like, hey, you heard of this guy? Apparently he names his robots after musical terms. That's baller. I should try to do that too. Okay. Let's try the old reliable liquify tool and see and go from there and see if it works. Okay, that's working so far for the top part of the head. And you know what? We can probably just kind of use the aerosol brush to round out the rest of it. And for this section, we can probably just do it like this. Ooh, or actually, wait. We could... extend this a little bit. We just need to avoid maintaining the aspect ratio. Okay, and then... Ooh, okay. Interesting issue that popped up. I cannot let this reach over the drink cup or anything, because otherwise it's going to show like that. That's going to be an interesting wrinkle to this whole affair. Okay. It feels like this is working. Although that might just be... that might just be my own wishful thinking. This might actually be the most difficult part out of all this, to be quite honest. Okay. This is what I get. This is my karmic punishment for not drawing her with huge shoulders, by the way. Let this be a lesson to you. Okay. Yep. We could probably do something similar for this section over here, too. I do think that the #1 award for most insane naming scheme of all time probably does have to go to Katakyo Hitman Reborn, which, from my memory, had its final boss be named some shit like Bermuda. Like, I don't think it was just Bermuda. I think it was like something like Bermuda Steve or some shit, which I find to be utterly hilarious. I don't know why that tickles me so much. I feel like the one thing that is underappreciated about anime and manga as a medium is that a lot of the English names are made by people who have never learned English before. But instead of trying to make it meaningful, or it is made meaningful. It is made meaningful. They do have intention behind naming characters the specific things they name them, right? But because there's no like idea of like conventional naming schemes, you get people like in One Piece, this guy called Blue Jam, which I thought was the coolest shit ever as a kid. Magical Knight Rayarth just named a ton of the characters after cars. NG Knight Lemonade and 40 named all the characters after drinks. God. That would be hilarious. Imagine you get isekai'd, right? You get hit by a truck, you get hit by the truck, and you wake up in a new fantastical universe, and you are back to back fighting a horde of orcs against a motherfucker named Pepsi. Right? I don't know. Something about it just makes me feel really fuzzy about inside. I'm really tickled by the idea. And of course there is like the legendary late Akira Toriyama, who named his characters after any old bullshit he could think of. Like, he did establish a naming scheme for the Saiyans to name them after vegetables, because of the fact that, like, if I recall correctly, I remember reading the article about this like a couple days ago. Like, Yasai means like wild man, but so he switched the characters around to make it Saiyajin, which is Saiyan. But then he also made it so that but apparently Yasai can also mean like vegetable. So now every Saiyan is named after a vegetable to some extent, and it fucking rules. Lamune is lemon-flavored ramune. In the sequel anime, his son is a lamunado lemonade. They call him the drink. Honestly, if I got pulled up on by a guy named Lemonade, I would have to rethink my life choices a little bit. Right? Like, I feel like if you get jumped by a dude named Pepsi, you know, you get your ass kicked by somebody named Sprite. You got the old 1-2 from Mug's root beer, right? I feel like it leads to some serious reconsideration of where you've gone wrong as a person. God. I guess it just goes to show that you can name your characters any old bullshit, and you should name them any old bullshit, but you need to make the story twice as meaningful to make up for it. Or maybe the story is more meaningful because you do it. I don't know. It's hard to say. Okay, and I think the other thing that I'm going to do is I need to flatten this. I need to merge these layers. And what I need to do is I need to add a gradient over top. Or actually, no. I need to do something else first. I need to put a gradient map over it. Or wasn't there like a different one that... Hang on. Color match. Here we go. Yeah, something like this, honestly. Just a little bit of this. Ooh! Wait. This one's so cute. This one makes the color so much nicer. Hang on. Okay, maybe we double up a little bit. So here's what let's do. Okay. I know what I know what I now what I must do. Okay. Okay. So that really makes the colors pop, which I'm a big fan of, but it's not quite achieving the effect that I want, which is to make her kind of the same color as the rest of the background. So to do that, I am going to need to choose a slightly different color match thing. So maybe this one, honestly. And then over top of that, I'm going to add a gradient. To maybe multiply the bottom of this a little bit, just so that it's a little less bright. The good news is we've reached the phase of the stream that's just me fucking around with the blending mode, so we're pretty close to the finish mark here. And I think the only other thing is that I do want to like stuff all of these into one folder, merge them together. And then also I need to copy the mask over. How do I... Oh, wait, I know. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to hit her with a blurring effect on the edges a little bit. Just so that it can focus on her face a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. I think we're pretty well done here. So let's call this Nerissa Over Peter. Okay, and I'm not really satisfied with just ending it on that, so let's do something really fun real quick. So I found this website that can... where was it? Where is it? Hang on. Album art exchange, random album covers. Shit, did I lose this website? I hope not. Hang on, I gotta check my history real quick. Hang on, history. Manage history, here we go. Okay, Horse Dress, Nerissa Ravencroft. It's somewhere around here. Maybe I'd have to look yesterday. No, it would have been early in the morning today. Is it Capstasher? No, that's for... That's for, like, these 88 by 14 sticker... Not 88 by 14, what is it? 88 by 31 buttons, that's the one. Wait, I think I found it. Still Slab, that's the one. Here we go. Okay, now I can share my screen. Okay, so this website is really cool because if you go to stillslab.com/filter, it pulls up a high definition screenshot of a random movie. A lot of random movies, actually. And I kind of wanted to try and use these for just value study. But I'm wondering if maybe I should... Is this a Hunger Games? Ballad of Songbird and Snakes? They're releasing movies that I've never heard of before in my life. Cherry 2021? Joker 2019, really? This one looks kind of interesting. This one could also work pretty well, but this is a bit too detailed for what I need right now. Lilo, what is that? Some kind of remote control? This one looks like it could be pretty good for value studies, honestly. Let's try and use this one then. Okay, I'm gonna plonk this here, and I'm gonna screenshot this section here. Really funny that there's an ethnicity tag for these. Okay. Just so I don't forget the name of the movie. We can stretch this to around here. So here's what let's do. I'm going to maybe crop it to just this amount. And then I'm going to lighten this out, and I'm going to try and just make a really quick composition based on it. Maybe we can go with slightly thicker lines too. Okay. Okay. And here's what we can do for this one. We can blur it Gaussian style. And then we can lighten it a little bit. Then underneath that, we can also add one for this guy here. And this is just thinking about like lighting and how that's falling on people, honestly. This is not going to be the most flattering portrait of these actors that I can muster. Just for the record. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is to make like an approximation. I don't know, I feel like if I do this enough, I'll eventually get the knack for it just off the cuff, if that makes sense. Like, I'm trying to build muscle memory for lighting and composition. So I think trying to do something like this could be pretty beneficial. Honestly, I could just probably make them the same color as the background. Maybe slightly darker on the hair. Bro kind of looks like Anakin Skywalker a little bit. What I could do is also have a copy of the picture on overlaid on top. Because now I can see that this is actually the wrong idea. I need to actually make the guy darker. Right, and then I need to bring in the highlights. I also need to be careful to not just, like, fall into what I think is how the shadows fall and really look at how they fall. I think that's going to be an exciting challenge to this. Okay, like, for example, the nose. I'm missing the nose here for the light effects. And we can always just blend this out a little bit, too. Probably we could use a little bit of the airbrush here as well, just to smooth that along. Interestingly enough, you can see a little bit of the light poking in from the back over here. I do think I should probably go darker on the hair, though. And then really increase the contrast with... Oops. Really increase the contrast with the rest of it. Why can't I manipulate the hue? There we go. The hair is that dark is the thing. I was gonna say, is the hair that dark? But it is basically that dark. May I need to, like, microdose it first? Hmm. You should be able to see a little bit more light here for the eye. Okay. And we need to darken this area here, too. What is that emoji? It's the... Okay, so that's an Easter Island head as an Amogus. What... Okay. So what is this intended to communicate? Let's unpack this a little bit. What am I supposed to receive from this? I am thrilled by its presence. Don't get it twisted. I am intimately curious about what it's supposed to be about, though. Like, I feel like you just brought an exciting new item to show and tell for the rest of us. Okay, and I need to... Hang on. Maybe what I can do is just over this area. Right. I can lighten this a little bit. But then I can also... Hang on. I'd need to use this thing, the airbrush tool, to kind of create the shadows on the neck. And then the other thing that I would need to do is I would also need to make some of the shadows on the face. There we go. I don't know what it is about the Easter Island heads that's so captivating. I feel like they're definitely like one of top 10 man-made wonders on Earth. Just like the sheer iconicity of them, you know what I mean? I don't know what the Easter Island people were getting up to on said islands, but they knew what the hell they were doing, right? I think it's just like the stoicism of it is really what draws people to the Easter Island heads. Because like I feel like it has like a perfectly neutral face, but it's also very self-assured in a way. Right? Like I feel like the Easter Island head kind of epitomizes that feeling of of like being very nonchalant, but not because you don't care, but because you're too powerful to kind of like let it bug you. I love this lady's nose. I don't know. I feel like when she has her head tilted up like this, it has a very glamorous feeling. I think it might be the sunglasses that are giving that impression as well, but I don't know how to put it. She has like the perfect face for this head angle. I like that you can kind of see the reflection of the blonde guy's head in the reflection of the glasses. I don't know, there's something kind of therapeutic about this. I'm not really trying to add too much detail, but it's also kind of nice that I can if I really want to. I don't know. I think I needed this. I think my brain is craving some kind of study time for art. Like, don't get me wrong, it was nice making Nerissa, but I feel like I was focused too much on the finished product to an extent for that one. Kind of like this. There we go. How's that look without the reference? Ooh, I'm really liking that. Okay, so here's what let's do. We'll close off the line art here. And we'll give her some kind of fill in the meantime. Okay. So here's what let's do. I'm going to just grab everything except maybe the orange hoop ring. And the inside of the shirt. I think I forgot to draw her ear, but that's okay. It's fine. I'm a little lost in the sauce, but I'm not fully gone. I can draw the implication of an ear later on. Okay, and then we can go even darker on the cardigan? I don't know what this is called. Okay. Perfect. And then we can probably make the inside of the cardigan here a lighter color, and ditto for the gold chain. This is fun. I'm having a great time. Okay, this is gonna be the tricky part though, is figuring out... Okay, so let's try this. Select all the skin. Decrease the opacity and try to follow the curvature of what I observe. Maybe that's too much of a difference, I don't know. Wait, no, that's perfect actually. We can just blend that out a little bit. I also need to add more... Hang on. There we go. I also need to do something about the lipstick. This is... Oh, this is awesome. There's a second... I've had two... Hang on. 2 times this stream, I've had like a random bot come up and say that best viewers on stream boost shit. We gotta get this website investigated, I'm telling you. Like, there's no way that... I don't know why it's my account specifically. Like, it feels like every other stream I'm getting, like, 2 or 3 of these stream booth things. Oh, that does not look very good. Let's try to refine that a little bit. Okay, the interesting thing is that the glasses are actually pretty... They're much darker than I thought they would be, but let's try and do it anyway. The parts we'll have to pay attention to are those, like, shadows that are in the reflection. So after we do this one, we'll do like this and like this to shear off the top, and then darken these quite a bit. Do they have highlights? Yes, they do. And what we can do is we can actually grab maybe the color of the cardigan here. I don't know if that's lighter or darker. No, that's lighter. We need to go slightly darker for the eye underneath the glass here. And then the hair. Oh, brother, the hair. What am I going to do with the hair? I think the best call is to... Hang on. is to just create individual strands like this and just darken everything else. Okay, let's try this. Okay. This is an experiment in texturing. I'll need to remember to write down the results later so it's not just some bullshit that I put to paper. You know what? I might be talking crazy, but that doesn't seem half bad. Let's try this. Okay. So I'll just grab this part. And then just maybe increase the contrast and decrease the brightness. I think that's going to be the move. Okay, so edit, tonal correction, brightness / contrast, increase contrast, decrease brightness. Okay, and now we get to the fun part, which is going to be like actually blocking out chunks of it where it is lighter, like here, and these locks down here, and also closer to the top here. Yeah, just like that. The cardigan needs to be slightly darker, I think. Okay, I'm liking that. But that being said, I do need to maybe increase the contrast for the blurry girl over here. Okay. And I think for the rest of this, we can just go kind of broad strokes on how we're doing this bullshit. So here's what let's do. We'll say that this structure back here is the lightest point. Everything else needs to be at least one step darker. And we'll kind of proceed through a process of elimination like that. Maybe not that by that much, maybe just a little bit at first. But then, little by little, we're going to keep eliminating things that are light. So, for example, this top part here, that should be lighter than the rest of this. So we go down a couple steps. The gable back there, that seems like it's going to be pretty green. Let's go back, let's bring that out and then see where the night takes us. Maybe a little bit darker than that even. Okay, and maybe we can actually have the highlights of this car ready to go. That might be a good idea. Okay, so the next one I think to go is gonna have to be this guy's jacket. Maybe the road that they're standing on. I think that would be a good next step. I think the rest of these blocks can be blown off the hinges now. And I think from there, the darkest points are going to be these two guys in front here. No, but hang on, okay, let's try this. Wow, this looks like dog shit. Good work, everyone. This is why we're going to blur it. There we go. I think we gotta lighten the whole thing up a little bit, just so that it does provide more contrast with these figures in the front. But yeah, there we go. Did that in like half an hour. Pretty interesting results. I don't feel like I've learned anything yet, but I do feel like if I keep doing this, I'll gain something valuable. Okay, so one last compare and contrast. Quick review. What could we do differently? I think one thing that I'm noticing right off the bat is that I should probably bring... This white is at like an 11, and I needed like an 8. So maybe something more like this. Yeah, there we go. I think what I can do here is maybe just add a little gradient. I think that creates a really good effect. And I think for the rest of this, I do kind of want to work a little bit on just the face details for the lady here. Because I feel like because she has like that kind of more weathered looking face, I think it would create a really nice effect if I was trying to replicate it a little bit more detailed. I don't know how much detail I can cram in there, though. Maybe I can use a little bit of the airbrush tool here. It's more of a flat effect, I think, up around here. I think it's also darker than I thought it would be. Let's try something like this. And then what we can do is we can just grab this part up here and reduce that, and very nice. Okay, I'm giving her too much chin. We gotta recede that a little bit. We can also add just a little bit more manicuring to this unruly kind of texture that I created. This is pretty good. I honestly don't know. This hair texture is really tough to work out. I'm also bothered because I don't know how to make the lady on this end of the canvas stand out. Like, do I need to make her lighter? Do I need to increase the saturation, the contrast? I don't know what's... Something about her is really bugging the crap out of me. I guess I could just make her thermobaric white like this. Yeah, no, she's definitely lighter in the picture, so maybe that is the right choice. Tone correction, increase the contrast a little bit. I don't know, does she get lost with the... she does kind of get lost with the colors of the wall here. What we could do is we could just add a little bit of a change to the background here, and just the slightest darkening here. No, wait, we'd have to kind of like go like this in order to do it right. Yeah, honestly, that should be fine. There we go. What's this movie called again? Bring Her Back 2025. Okay. I think that's gonna do us for tonight. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for sticking around. Is anybody else streaming today? I know for some reason Thursdays I feel like don't get a lot of motion. Oh, but there are some people. I think Zed is just starting up stream, so we could say hi to them. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Creator dashboard, raid channel, where is Zed? Alright. I'll be back on Sunday with Esoteric Ebb. I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, take it easy, take care of yourselves, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Talk to you later. Bye.